Thank
you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. The title of this debate is Strengthening Standards in Public Life. Therefore, it's plain to see that standards do exist. The problem is that they're not being respected. And it's not a new thing. This hasn't suddenly fallen upon us. Westminster politics and sleaze have coexisted for my entire life. In the 1960s, it was centred around arranging call girls for their pals and spying. Now it's arranging phone calls for their pals and, well, being economical with the truth. On Tuesday, the 1st of December 2020, during a session of the Select Committee on the Public Administration and Constitutional Affairs, I asked the Chair of the Committee on Standards in Public Life, can principles and codes of conduct remain effective if those in office are determined to interpret them as liberally as possible? And the response is worth noting. If people are determined to bend the rules or to try to play right up to the edge of the rules, it is very difficult to do anything about that. You have to draft the rules carefully to try to ensure they are in the right places, but the Nolan principles are a matter of personal responsibility for anybody in public life. From that point of view, if you purely rely on a compliance system, I think that it is second best to people recognising why these arrangements and principles are actually of value in themselves. The purpose of them is not to set up some arbitrary rules. They are there in order to ensure that the citizens of this country get the best from their public service, which they are paying for, and which they are engaged with, and which they rely on. And what we want is the best possible delivery of good public services, fairly and honestly, in a way in which people can have confidence. And I think that was a very comprehensive answer, because principles, standards and conventions mean nothing to either who are playing on their phones in the front benches here, mean nothing if they're ignored by those who deem themselves to be free of the network of obligation which binds anyone else. And my assertion is supported by Lord Evans' remarks that there was a culture of impunity seeping into British governance. The facts, as we have heard, show time and time again that this UK government has trampled all over the 7 principles of public life. And the outcome of that is that there is a potential for all elected members, senior civil servants and others serving in public life to be tarred with the same brush. And the public's default to any accusation can be that we're all guilty. It's a stereotype of politicians which we have to avoid, because we can be painted the same, noses in the trough, working for our own aims, rather than following the first of the Nolan principles, to act solely in terms of the public interest. When elected members line their own pockets, seek favour for actions taken, or put themselves before their constituents, they undermine all the good work that the majority of the MPs are doing. I have to disagree with the member from Henley and Thames, who is no longer in his place, who forecast a plague on us all. That is not inevitable. This is a problem that this government should have the courage to resolve. And the problem is the mindset that allows corruption and undermines selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty and leadership. The mindset must change, and while this government twists and turns to protect their own, public confidence will continue to diminish. And finally, Mr Deputy Speaker, thankfully the people of Scotland have an alternative, and given the catalogue of corruption that weighs heavy on this place. Sure.
I just typed in, as I say, the myriad of SNP scandals. So my first question is, does he have any sense of irony? And secondly, I mean, there are just a catalogue of financial and sexual harassment scandals. Is this obligatory or just advisory for the SNP?
I think the honourable member should be very careful of what he's alleging there, even if he thinks he can get impunity from within this place. And I think if you look at the model of government, the model of election that we run in Holyrood, in Edinburgh, for the people of Scotland, you'd be ashamed. You'd be ashamed of some of the actions that go on in this place here. But we can resolve this. Oh, you're off your phone now. Thanks very much for listening, finally. Yeah. Not you, Tim. So finally, we can resolve this. I will, briefly.
Thank the honourable member. It's unfortunate that in Scotland we can't stop the influence of organisations such as unincorporated associations with the shadowy donors that lay behind them, such as the Scottish Unionist Association Trust, but it occurs, of course, throughout the UK, indeed in places like the Isle of Wight and the Isle of Wight Conservative Patrons Club. Do you share my concern about these shadowy bodies and the fact that donors can hide their identity?
This is, of course, a system we're moving away from. When the people of Scotland, they take their opportunity to remove all of Scotland's MPs.
I'm sorry.
Order, Mr. Seeley.
As a statement of fact, the Isle of Wight Patrons Club is completely unaffiliated to the Conservative Party and the Isle of Wight Conservative Association.
Well, that's not a point of order for the Chair. Mr. Cowan.
I think it's good. And for the record, nobody's actually said that it is. So this is leading to the acceleration to the removal of all of Scotland's MPs from this place, and the people of Scotland's representatives will work in a parliament that is modern, accessible, open, honest and accountable.